Learn how to create, sustain, and scale up your print-on-demand business with the latest tips, guides, and strategies to help you start selling and making money today. Welcome to the Sales on Demand Show. And here's your host, Adam Schneider.
What's up, everybody? I'm Adam, and you're listening to episode 64 of the Sales on Demand Show. And I gotta tell you, I am running behind on posting these episodes to the actual website, so I apologize for that. If you're listening to this and you're like, why am I not seeing these updated on the podcast, on the Sales on Demand Show website? It's because I am a lazy idiot. No other reason than that. I'm a lazy idiot. But, hey, my wife knows that. My kids know that. Now you know it too. So, today, I am calling this episode's Expectations and Reality. Pass your business along. So, I'm going to talk about a few things. But first, I'm going to talk about how Amazon went off the deep end and I ponder the future of e-commerce. So, I just got my integration back for Etsy. Woo! Party time! I gotta tell you, the integration is amazing. You might not think that entering between 5 and 10 orders a day is really that big of a deal. And it's not if you're not doing anything else. But every single day coming back home from work, working a 10-hour shift, and then I sit down in front of my computer and I'm like, copy, paste, name, copy, paste, address, copy, paste, city. And then you do that 10 times, and then when the orders ship, you have to copy and paste the tracking number. The integration does all of that. It doesn't handle customized orders, but it's very easy to just do those. And I haven't had a whole bunch of customized orders like I did with Mother's Day. I do have the same products available for sale as customizable products, but people are just buying the generic non-customizable items. And I'm not even getting requests to put customization on the items like I usually do. So it could be that Father's Day is just not an holiday that people want to customize items as much for, but they're still buying. So keep listing. Don't focus too much on any one thing. Don't do all customizable items and don't do all non-customizable items, because you're just, you're spreading yourself too much in one area and you're neglecting another area. Unless you don't have time to do customization, in which case, then do what I do and just don't do it, or don't do very much of it. So, I am kind of waiting for a thunderstorm here. I know that's kind of a non sequitur, but I love thunderstorms so much, and part of the joy of summer for me is sitting inside while there's a thunderstorm, or driving around in a thunderstorm and just feeling the power of the rain smashing down on your vehicle and seeing bolts of lightning hit. I don't know, I love that. So, kind of waiting for that. And I noticed that everybody is getting real tired of being locked down. And I am one of those people, but I'm a little bit more patient right now than I am, or I was, say 4 weeks ago, when I was literally ready to storm City Hall and tear somebody out of their seat. It is what it is. At least we see a potential end to it, but it's still taking forever for anything to happen. Churches are still being severely restricted. Here in Alberta, 50 people is the max for a church, or 1/3 of your capacity. So, that's kind of, and you know what, people are, legitimately upset about that, because a restaurant can have, 300 people. I may have mentioned this last week, but it is stupid. And there's 1,200 churches in California that are saying, yeah, we're not doing it. We're not locking down. We're opening up, and what are you going to do about it? And I don't know what's going to happen. I mean, I'm not going to church. Even if my church opens up, I'm probably not going. But there are people who are getting like really restless because they want to open their business. I tried to get a haircut the other day. Haircuts are available now in Alberta. You can go get a haircut if you can wait 4 hours for an appointment. So that's actually encouraging for me to see that there's like a 4-hour wait, because it means that those people who work in those places are making money again and they can pay their bills, and that matters to me. So what is selling right now? Well, of course, Father's Day. We still have, it is the 27th and Father's Day is the 21st, so we have 3 weeks. That is more than enough time. You're going to see the peak come real soon here. Although Father's Day items have been selling for, since the beginning of the year at this point, I've probably sold more Father's Day items over just the last 3 months than I have sold Mother's Day items in the short period leading up to Mother's Day. It was really strange, but people are buying stuff for dads and husbands and all that kind of thing. Uncles, papas, grandpas, everything. So get it out there, list it. You don't have a ton of time left. Probably by next week I'm going to start moving on to some other topic, because if you haven't done this already, well, you don't have a ton of time left, and summer is coming up, and I am going to be looking to see what is selling over the summer. And if you have time now, start creating designs for graduation, weddings, and summer activities. The things that I love the most. Obviously camping, fishing, hiking. And yes, weddings, like I said, even though many people aren't doing the big weddings, there's still weddings taking place. They're just, 10 people, which, whatever. A wedding with 10 people, it's still a wedding. And if, you have 10 people at a wedding, then it costs way less. It kind of saves you some money. So, it's a great excuse for husbands to not have to spend a whole bunch of money on a wedding. So, take advantage of this, guys. Propose to that woman this year and be like, no, we have to get married this year because, it's a great year to get married. Anyway, maybe don't do that. But also, face masks are going to be a big thing, and I foresee face masks being pretty big for the foreseeable future. At least the summertime, and maybe beyond. So, the whole social distancing and face mask wearing thing I think it's becoming more of a social norm. And Gear Bubble does sell face masks, as well as some other print-on-demand suppliers. I believe Gooten, Gooten, also has face masks for sale. I don't know what Gooten has for integration, or if you have to manually fulfill orders. If anybody knows, let me know. And I can, advise the rest of the world. But at least they have them, or they did last I heard. But Gear Bubble does have them. The supplier is overseas, at least for me, in the United Kingdom. So they do ship from the United Kingdom, and they're taking 4 weeks to arrive. At least 4 weeks. And sometimes they're taking 4 weeks to ship. So they do sell, but set long handling times. Like, say 5 weeks. And if somebody says that's too long, don't try and say it might arrive sooner. Just say, I'm very sorry, but it is very busy. Everybody wants a face mask right now, which is true. So orders are taking a longer time to process, but you will get it. And it's a very nice face mask. It's got a little filter thing in it, little pouch to put a filter in. And, you'll probably get some sales out of it. I don't focus on that. I don't even have any masks for sale because I just don't feel like dealing with that. But if you got time, go for it. So I wanted to talk about what do I see happening this year. I mean, obviously, Father's Day, Mother's Day, and, this has been an extraordinary selling season, and, so many of us have made stacks of money. Is that going to continue, or what do I expect to happen this year? So, once things go back to normal, and we're already kind of seeing this, is the sales are slowing down a little bit. People are getting outside more. Obviously the major reason that we were making so many sales throughout the end of April and May is people were stuck indoors and they had nothing else to do but shop. They had literally nowhere else to go, and shopping was only online. So I was seeing lots of orders from New York, Florida, California, places that I don't always see a ton of orders. And it was because those people were stuck indoors. So, of course, that's not going to continue forever, because if New York wants to have any human beings left in New York, they cannot stay locked down forever. And I already know people who are I am leaving New York. One of my favorite podcasters, Dave Smith of Part of the Problem, he left New York. He's living in a suburb somewhere, and he was a New York Jew. He was a staple of New York, but he's already gone. He's just tired of the New York scene, and he's a comedian, and he's thinking to himself, why do I need to be here? So you're going to see a lot of people leaving these states that are still locked down, and that's going to, they have to release these people at some point, or there's going to literally be torch mobs in the streets. And I think we already saw that the other day. A mob of people invaded a police station. That might have been for something else, though. I don't know. I don't keep track of all these mobs. I just don't have time for it. There's mobs every day. Sorry, gonna get a drink here. But yeah, we've got a presidential election this year, obviously. We've got two of the strangest candidates that I've ever seen. Joe Biden still is not confirmed as the nominee for the Democratic Party, so I don't know, man. Is he going to be? Who knows? But there's a lot of potential for Joe Biden there. If he gets elected president, God help us if Joe Biden gets elected president. But then we have President Trump, so I feel like God is just laughing at us right now. What else is going to happen? But it certainly is going to be interesting. Now, depending on who gets elected, that's probably going to impact the economy. If Trump gets reelected, I think the economy keeps going like it is. If Biden gets elected, you can certainly expect to see some kind of a disruption in there. Whether it'll last through Christmas or not, nobody really knows. But I think there will be a potential slowdown. But that energy, that manic energy from politics is going to be a lot of potential for selling. So if you're ever thinking about doing a Trump mug or something with politics, it's not a bad idea. Trump literally speaks words. People create designs and they sell like wildfire. It's bananas. I saw a product the other day. It was a card, a birthday card, and it was something about injecting cake directly in your veins, and it had a picture of Trump on it. And apparently it's like a top seller. And that was because Trump was talking about injecting disinfectant directly into your veins. So Trump was literally just spouting nonsense off the top of his head. And no matter what anybody says, it was stupid. It was nonsense, right? He was fulminating about some weird thing he might have heard. And it becomes a bestseller. So, pay attention to what Trump says, because there's money there. Alright, so next year, I don't know, continuing fallout from coronavirus, obviously. There's millions of businesses that are not going to be reopening. But hopefully it will be something like an ordinary year. I really hope so. I'm praying that it will be an ordinary year, because 2020 came along and it was supposed to be this huge milestone, and it's 2020, the year of the flying car. No, it was not the year of the flying car. It was the year of sitting on your hind end and watching Netflix and having your kids constantly pester you because nobody will play with them because all of their parents won't let them out, and it's just driving me crazy. Anyway, I think there will be, slower economic development, but listen, the best thing about this business is that you can always double your sales by adding more products. Each individual product may or may not continue to sell, but we're not building a business around one product. Like, you get one design that does really well, great. You've constantly got to be adding new designs in order to keep your business going. In 5 years, something that sells today is not, it may be selling a little bit by then, but it's not going to keep selling forever. And so I am looking at constantly adding and refreshing my products as an essential part of my business. Even the products that sell really well right now, I'm going to be refreshing those, and I don't expect them to sell forever. So this leads me into 5 years. So there's potential for fairly high inflation to be occurring over 5 years in the U.S. And of course, we're concerned with the U.S. because that's where the buyers are. If you're selling in Canada, but you know what? Every country is doing the same thing. They're basically borrowing huge stacks of money and throwing it literally into the air to try and keep people from starving to death. And I guess, they have to, right? If you tell people that they can't go to work, you kind of have to pay their bills for them, or at least try. But putting money into the economy that is not connected with production, if there's not a corresponding good or service that is connected to that money, that's inflation. That's what inflation literally is. So I don't know if the U.S. passed that $3 trillion spending bill. I heard it was vetoed. I don't know. But they've already put $2.2 trillion, and that didn't hardly do anything. So you're definitely going to see high inflation, more businesses failing, and possibly a few bubbles. So what's a bubble? It's when the price of a certain asset gets really, really overpriced, and you can get bubbles in anything. So typically it's like housing. In 2000, there was a bubble in the price of domain names, like business.com or whatever. So people were buying these domain names, and they were worth stacks of money, but then it didn't last, right? So we had a housing bubble in 2008, and houses were overvalued. We had a Bitcoin bubble a couple years ago, and people lost a lot of money in that. And there's going to be gold bubbles and silver bubbles, oil bubbles, everything. Everything's going to be a bubble because there's so much money out there, borrowed money, that in the next 5 years, you're going to see a lot of sort of, mucking around. I don't think there's going to be any huge economic collapse. It's just going to be a slow, steady trying to work back to where we were before coronavirus. Now, 10 years out, that's where it gets kind of fun. And listen, this is going to be pure speculation based on, not a ton of information. So if this doesn't happen, then, don't come after me and say that I'm Nostradamus and I failed. Because I'm not Nostradamus. And I'm not telling you that this is what I actually expect to happen, but I think it could. I think there will certainly be much more inflation. So we're going to be increasing the prices of our products, and the base cost of the price of our products will also increase. We're kind of seeing that already. Some of the products that I'm selling, two-toned mugs, for example, they went up in price because we couldn't get enough supply. That's probably temporary. But the cost of a mug, the cost of a t-shirt, and the cost of shipping is definitely going to increase. It has to, because it just cannot stay the same price. And that means that you're going to adjust your prices upwards, and people will still continue to pay the prices. Now, hopefully this doesn't become hyperinflation, where you're doubling your prices every day, and, you don't have any idea, what you're going to be paying for products tomorrow or the next day or the next day. that's bad. And that's happened in countries like Venezuela, Zimbabwe, Hungary, and of course Germany in the Weimar Republic, when a wheelbarrow full of money was more valuable as firewood than it was as actual currency. And I just saw a video the other day where somebody showed a $1 trillion Zimbabwean bill, and I was like, well, I sure hope we don't get there, because that would suck. But if we have a dollar collapse, if the US dollar, kind of has a collapse, I don't know what else to describe it as, that could happen. It might not be as drastic as that, but you could see some pretty steep inflation. I'm hoping not, but I'm building my business not around the United States dollar, even though it's priced in US dollars. I want to build a little bit of stability in my business. So I may be thinking about this over the next few years. Just, I've already talked about potentially opening up an Amazon Japan account and starting something there, which could potentially take over if the US dollar goes tits up. So that's a thought. I know that's pure speculation, but I think there's a better than even chance of that happening. So one thing I would definitely tell you, and this is when I say pass your business along, despite the economic uncertainty of the future, e-commerce is always going to be a good place to go. Because unless we literally have like a lights out scenario where there's no internet or like no mail service or something, and we're all doing like the postman thing. Wait, has anybody here seen the movie The Postman with the guy who played on Waterworld? Anyway, you probably haven't seen that movie. It was like a post-apocalyptic scenario where he was riding around. He was one of the last like Pony Express guys. It was a terrible movie. But unless we have a future like that, we're going to have e-commerce and an internet, so you'll always be able to sell something to people and get it to them through the mail. And that's all you need to be able to do. So what I tell people is get your kids and friends and family ready for this future by showing them your business and teaching them how it works, right? So I do this all the time, and I don't do it on purpose, but like my kids have seen the business. They've been literally standing beside me as I'm working on these projects. They can hear me podcasting in the next room. They're probably trying to sleep right now because it's late at night, but that's how we do here. Sometimes if you got to get the show out, you got to get the show out. So I show my son, and I've been telling him, listen, this is the future of making money, is doing it online. And I'll teach you everything that you need to know. And when you're old enough, I'll help you start your own business. And he's like, well, I don't know what to do, Dad, blah, blah, blah. But, he's only 10, so of course he doesn't know what to do. You start small. So I might start the kids maybe with buying them a website or something like that and getting some ad money. If you get people to a website and they see ads, you can make a little bit of money from that. Same thing with YouTube channels. You start a YouTube channel, let's say you're like, okay, start a YouTube channel teaching kids how to do this. And so you teach kids how to do some kind of math thing, and if they see an ad before now that's a little bit tougher because if you're targeting it to kids, can't really advertise to that, so maybe not do that. But teach your kids how to make money online by showing them how you do it. And you can always point them to the podcast. I have a series called Getting Started. I believe it's episode 20. So point them to the podcast. All of that stuff, it's not outdated, right? That may have been a year and some ago. None of that stuff is outdated just because it's a year old. Okay, some of the little individual things that you're doing may not apply exactly as I've described them. And this is how people kind of get, like, their heads kind of get wrapped up in the details of these things, and they just freak themselves out by, people do this with courses all the time. They're watching a video on how to do something on Amazon, and Amazon has changed the screen a little bit, and they're like, I don't know what I'm looking at. because they're focusing on the mouse clicks and they're not watching the workflow. They don't know. They know how things are being done, but they don't know what's happening. So as long as you can focus on what's happening and you can see the big picture, you will be able to adapt your knowledge to any circumstance. Your knowledge will apply 5 years from now. So you could get out of this and you could come back in and maybe listen to the podcast for a few weeks to get yourself back on track, but you'd be ready to rock. Because I don't see anything changing in e-commerce in any radical way, unless they invent some alternative to the internet, or, print-on-demand skin or something crazy like that. It's just, this is how things work. This is how things have worked for thousands of years. People create a product, they get eyeballs on it, and sell the product. And if they can't get eyeballs on it, or the product sucks, it doesn't sell. That's it. So if you can solve those two problems, you can make a business work. So that's it for today's show. I will see all of you next week. And we'll talk about how Father's Day went and Mother's Day. I'm going to tally up my sales here because it was pretty good. But I want to give you like the real hard numbers of how much money I actually made. Just so you know that what's possible. So stay tuned for that. See you next week. Cheers.